Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today, Wednesday, June 11th. We are back with the man Sniper J. This is off season in SimWorld U, Sniper, but it is all the same exceptionally active. First off, how are you? How are you feeling after a day of chaotic movement in college basketball?
I'm doing well. I'm still writing notes. I'm still writing notes. I'm still trying to process it all. But how are you feeling after all this? I mean, I love all the movement in the off season. It makes my job easier. It makes the media team job easier. It makes the players' job more entertaining. I love it all, honestly.
You're never gonna find a opponent of transferring over on this side of the microphone. And to your point, it's something, right? It's something to talk about. So I'm not gonna complain about it. We're not talking all of them today. We're just gonna talk what I think is maybe the most impactful ones. But um, I'm for it. I'm for it. Let's start with Syracuse. Like I said, I think they're the most impactful ones as they get both Ethan Letterman and Mark Chisholm, two guys that went to Creighton. They're now leaving Creighton after a up and down season to join a Syracuse squad that's got a five-star recruit in LeJordan Tompkins. You add Letterman, who was, I think he was a four-star recruit. I believe Chisholm was a three or four-star recruit. All in the first year for head coach Asad Drayton. This team is loading up, Sniper. What's your takeaway? What do you has their ceiling changed for this team next season? I think anything was better than 0 wins, but what's how are you feeling about this? What's next for Syracuse?
So with the movement as of yesterday, I think this moves Syracuse totem pole, and I say that because we all expect them to win games this year, but we wasn't expecting them to be a Big East. I'm sorry, ACC.
I forget. I think they're ACC.
Yeah, ACC. We weren't expecting them to be an ACC conference title contender. With these two guys coming in and the new coach and all the boatload of talent that's coming in, I'm thinking they should be top of the conference now. I think that moves the needle. I think they're ready to compete and try to be at the top of the conference this year because they added experience. They have newcomers and freshmen, young guys that could get the job done, and they have Coach Drayton. Coach Drayton is a coach that is known to get the best out of his players, and I think he's going to do the same at Q's this year.
I think that calling them to be a contender in the ACC, maybe the best team in the ACC, is not a stretch. Because if you look at what's left, let's go from the top down. And this, I'm not trying to use this as a backhanded compliment for Syracuse, because you add a five-star recruit in LeJordan Tompkins, really good basketball player. You add Ethan Letterman and Chisholm; those are both really good pieces. This is a deep roster, but let's just look at what they're up against. Virginia Tech, they lost Travion Novick. What are we going to get out of Newly Cox? That's a team that's going to be completely rebuilt from a 25-win season. Duke, the sudden departure of Cooper Flag. That team is not nearly the same intimidation factor as they were a year ago. Louisville, their best player, Kadarius Loftus, or excuse me, Pooh Lewis, gone. You still have Loftus, but Pooh Lewis out the door. Miami will get to. North Carolina, kind of up and down, middle of the road team. They ended at 16, but they weren't great to finish out the season. Those were the teams sitting at the top. And
Hmm.
I don't feel concerned that Syracuse is worse than any of those teams. Maybe we can talk about Miami, which we will, but I think not only has Syracuse added a lot of players, but it's this very perfect storm for Syracuse where you add players, you get a new head coach in the building, and oh, the ACC went from being four elite, well, let's not say four, three elite teams at the top to maybe not any. And I think that's why that combination of factors is what I love about what Syracuse is positioned at.
100%. I think you said it best. And for me, it's like you see gates, the pearly gates open for Q's, right? And like there's no top team no more, and I don't know. I think they have a good chance if they could find because every team's gonna be doing the same thing. It's all gonna be a chemistry. Who's gonna be the leader? Who's gonna get their ship going in the right direction first, and who's gonna hit the ground running? at the beginning of the season, and Q's has a good of chance of any other team besides Miami. But again, you said we're going to talk about that later, and the ACC to do that, and that's why we both think that they have a chance to get through that gate, being one of the top teams.
So I'm trying to pull up Syracuse's roster for next season. So um, you've got these are the pieces that they've added. It's a young roster. So they've
Hmm.
got LeJoran Tompkins. He's your star freshman recruit point guard. You've got Kylan Johnson, also a guard. He's maybe starting at the two. JJ Hoops, new to the building. Caleb Boateng, new to the building. So you've got four freshmen that are entering, plus Abdul Salamanca. So five freshmen. Now you're adding the transfers over of both Mark Chisholm and Ethan Letterman Jr. Here's my only concern with this team right now as we sit here today. And maybe it's not a concern, but you have your background. You tell me if this should be a concern or not. Okay, ready? Ethan Letterman is 6'4". LeJoran Tompkins is 6'4". Kylan Johnson is 6'3". JJ Hoops is 6'1". Caleb Boateng is 6'6". Abdul Salamanca 6'8", and then Mark Chisholm is 6'7". This team isn't big. I mean, they have that's not obviously the rest of their roster. They have John Hudgens, who's 7 foot. They got Jaron Wilson, so they have some pieces of size. But like, this is not a large team. Sniper, should we be concerned about that?
Nope. Nope.
No.
I don't think that's a problem in SimWorld U. I think small ball can win at the highest level. And the reason I say that is because let's be honest, you have some bigs or that's just not that good and they can't keep up with a fast-paced team. So if Coach Drayton decides to play small ball and have a very up-tempo pace with guys like Tompkins, Johnson, Hoops, um, the guys that's coming in, they all can score and shoot the ball. They're going to be hard to deal with for bigger teams. It's hard to keep small guys in front of you, especially as similar you. It's a little different when you go to the next level.
Well, not only so I asked this because I wanted your take. My take is I agree 100% because if you look at this group, you've got guys that play exceptionally maybe bigger than they would be, right? Like LeJoran Tompkins, extremely athletic, playing above the rim. The same thing for Caleb Boateng, 6'6". He's almost like a Lou Dort kind of guy,
Hmm.
where he's an excellent on ball defender. He's a really great physical piece. 6'6", 216. That's a body out there as a freshman coming in. And then of course Letterman and Chisholm. I mean Chisholm, I've been a huge fan of his. He feels like a guy that should shoot better from three than he does, and Letterman the same. This feels like a team where they could go 8 to 9 deep, which to me I think that's the sweet spot for SWBA. I think that's like almost too many guys for college basketball, but it's a good problem to have if you're Syracuse. So you've got five freshmen walking in the door, all of them exceptionally talented. You've got two, I believe both of them sophomores. Yeah, so Letterman and Chisholm entering their sophomore years. This is a young team with a first-year head coach coming off a 25-game losing streak last season. It is worth watching. It'll be exciting in Syracuse. Let's go to that Miami team that we talked about. They get the return of Dominic Bianco. That's like the big headline. Call it a transfer of their own to get Dominic Bianco back in the building for a team that's trying to put pieces together. They also, and Dominic Bianco, I think there was a little bit of hubbub about him becoming returning. I had real quick. Where were you looking at him? I had him as like a late first, second round pick. I think him coming back makes a ton of sense for this Miami team.
Easily, I had him second round, mid second round. Honestly, I thought he was gonna fall. If he did choose to go the draft route, he was gonna have to go through the draft workouts. He was gonna have to go to the team workouts. He was gonna have to perform well in the combine. And even if he did all that, I still saw him as beginning of second round. And if he didn't perform well, he was middle of second round. I think this is an excellent choice for him to go back.
Okay, so he's back in the building. Kavon Jackson has finished his rehab. He's coming off IR. He was the prized recruit that everyone was super excited about last season. He got hurt. He's returning. You add Tony Henderson. You add Jeremiah Cordero as freshman. You add Juan Carlos as well. this team feels much better positioned to contend for the ACC and get back to that national championship level that they were 2 seasons ago. I don't know that I feel like they're better than that team that we just talked about in Syracuse, but to me, as I'm looking ahead, because I have a lot of question marks about Duke, you can't convince me of Virginia Tech or Louisville being relevant. Miami feels like it's I don't want to say number one contender because I don't think we have a bona fide number one team right now, but I think they're the short list of options to be there.
Yes, I would agree with you. And the reason why I would agree with you is because of how their roster is shaping out to be. They have experience. They have guys who won it all. And then they have guys that lost in the second round. And now they have a bunch of new hungry incoming freshmen that they could kind of mentor and show them the ropes and show them, hey, this is how you get the hoopsteria. And then you have that next group like, hey, this is how you win in hoopsteria. And I think that's why this team is dangerous, especially with Jackson coming off an injury.
Yeah, and then of course, I mean, I guess probably should have led with this one, right? The addition of Sean Miller, a guy that's taken the Xavier Musketeers to the Super 16, to the Grade 8, and then last season as a 14 seed, they win the last 3 games of the regular season. They jump in as a 14 seed. They make it to the national championship, the lowest seed to ever make it there. Sure, they fell to UCLA, but that is one of the most historic seasons in college basketball. Now Sean Miller, a guy that had a lot of success, Sniper, at Arizona, he's coming in, and it feels like he is going to be a guy that can reestablish this team as a perennial contender. He's 5 wins away from 500 on his career, so you expect that. He's a career 72% winning percentage guy, and he's got a roster that feels very Arizona-like to me, right? When he was at Arizona, they never really had like the bona fide number one overall pick type of talent, but they always had guys that were fringe lottery first rounders. I think a healthy Kevon Jackson is a first round pick. I think if Dominic Bianco can shoot the ball a little bit better from deep, he's a fringe first round pick. Tony Henderson projects as a forward that could be in that range in the long run. This feels like a team that Sean Miller was destined to coach to be successful.
I agree, but I also don't agree.
Okay.
I think Sean Miller has the capability of, sorry for lack of better words, effing this up, because he's walking into a system where these guys, they know how to win. Some of them know how to win, some of them know how to lose, and the new guys are just coming in trying to make fit with see fit. Sean Miller's coming off this very esteemed winning season, and he's going to try to implement his ways. And if he doesn't win over the guys he needs to win over, Bianco, Jackson, and direct, if he doesn't win them over early in summer, as of like right now, this team could struggle because leadership is reflected on the court, and he just have to do right by certain players. Like he has to get the right leaders to buy into his system early, or everything's gonna come crashing down.
I think if guys don't buy into Sean Miller, I think that's more of an indictment on the player than it is the coach. Because Sean Miller had to rebuild himself, and he goes to an Xavier program that had nothing, that was not successful, and he took them to the deepest parts of the national tournament as you can possibly take a team. And if you're looking at this Miami team, outside of Dominic Bianco, the guys that are left standing from your national championship teams are Jeremiah Castillo, who was an unused freshman, Edgar Fernandez, who came off the bench, and Harlan Hoffman, who was an unused freshman. You only have 3 guys in Dominic Bianco. So you have 4 guys on this roster that are national champions. If you can't win this group over, I think that's an indictment on the players. What you did last season wasn't good enough, right? And you're only adding, 4 new pieces to this: Jordan Smith, Tony Henderson, Jeremiah Cordero, Juan Carlos. So the majority of this roster last season was not good enough to be above 500. If you can't buy into something new and think you've got to figure it out, what your roster tells us is you're not a good basketball team. They had a great ACC run, but you're not a good basketball team. Sean Miller has coached good basketball teams. I would be more questioning of the roster if they don't buy in than the head coach if they don't buy in.
I don't know. I don't know, Marsh. I'm kind of on the player side. I mean, I wouldn't want Sean Miller coming here rubbing his musketeer way
What are
on
you
my
on your
but
what? On your 15-win team?
look, I'm just saying at the U we do things different than we do
You do
at
things differently
Xavier.
as being you losing. Outside of
But
one season where Jermaine McElmore carried you, he's gone. You're one. The way the U does things is lose basketball games.
just said, Marsh, I think there's gonna be some tension in that gym come summertime.
If there's tension, I'll tell you right now, I'm on the side of Sean Miller because whatever they were cooking up last season was not good enough, and I don't think there's any grounds for this group to stand there and say we know more than you. Now, does Sean Miller have a national championship? No, he does not, but he does have a recent track record of making deep runs. Speaking of deep runs and a lack of a national championship, how about the Alabama Crimson Tide? Big offseason. They add Kai Killens. They add Almighty Soul. They add Leonardo Fields. This is a young roster that gets, I mean, Kai Killens, the biggest of them all, the largest introduction to this group. But it's a team that continues to fall short just at the end, right? They
Hmm.
lose in the quad to UCLA. They lose the conference championship game to Kentucky. The story around this Alabama team, we've left Sniper the honeymoon phase of Alabama becoming a traditional contender in college basketball. That was fun for 2 or 3 seasons. You make the runs, people say, okay, that's fun. They got a chance to be relevant. Now you got to start winning the last game of the regular season, and Nate Oates has not been able to do that for this team. What is this now entering championship or bust realm for the Alabama Crimson Tide?
I think it's been past championship. This is bust, and I don't see it no different this year. Yes, you have a phenomenal player in Childs, and you got great talent coming in, and Mr. Killings and Fields. But look, this team's too young. This might be the worst season Bama has under Nate Oates.
Really?
Yes, yes.
Why?
I don't see it. I'm not seeing that Bama, that Crimson Tide winning spirit in this roster from head to toe. I'm just looking at it like
Kai Killens and
they
Almighty Soul don't give you that vibe.
no, they don't. I mean, the freshmen. You're talking about freshmen playing against the SEC. We saw what happened with our guy from Missouri last year. I mean, I'm not trying to throw no shade on nobody.
It sounds like you're throwing shade at Jeff Fat Towns. Is what it sounds like you're doing.
But I'm not throwing no shade at nobody. But we gotta realize when we're putting these guys in, they're going to the SEC, the gauntlet, and then if Nate Oates has any type of sense, and the Bama organization has any type of sense, they're going to play a tough non-conference schedule just to make sure they get into Hoopsteria. So now you got a tough non-conference, and you're going into the gauntlet of the SEC. I'm not sure if these young guys are they're mentally strong, physically strong
Ooh.
enough to do what they need to do to put Bama as a true contender for a national championship. And I'm just
I'll,
leave it at that, Marsh.
I'll tell you what, Sniper. I think you could not be further from the truth, and I am fully drinking the Tide Kool-Aid right now. And here's why. You've got two McDonald's All-Americans walking in the door, and the fact that Almighty
Here
Soul,
we go.
I thought Almighty Soul was, but my notes here tell me I could have sworn he was up there. So let's call it three. Kai Killens is in, and you know the type of player that I fall in love with, and I have ridden this Kai Killens stock market boom over
Hmm.
here. I mean,
Yep.
I am unapologetically always reminding folks the first man to say Kai Killens was going to be great was the guy talking right now, and Kai Killens reminds me of D'Angelo Jordan. He reminds me of Justin Bell. Those are two guys that stepped onto the, and Nas Hall you can add to that list, who stepped onto the college basketball scene and immediately led their team to impactful basketball, right? And in the top four picks next season in the SWBA draft from everybody that I've spoken to in league circles and college basketball circles, the expectation, right, is that it's D'Angelo Jordan, Justin Bell, Nas Hall, Arthur Lattimore in some order. Kai Killens would be in that group if he was eligible to come out and didn't have to do the to and through rule in college basketball. He's that good. And this is a team that's returning DJ Childs, who was the number 5 assist man, a hounding defender who's kind of recreated himself after a tough season offensively to be a defensive savant. You're returning Levin Cutler. You're returning Rodrigo Falls, 3 guys who know how to win at the high level. And you're adding Almighty Soul, an elite freshman. Kai Killens, an elite freshman. Leonardo Fields, a very, very good freshman. To me, there's no part of this group that I am concerned with, but I do think we are entering championship or bust season because for Nate Oates, this is the last couple seasons, right? Ever since 2019, they have only made the national tournament. They've made the grade 8, they've made the Super 16, they've made a national championship, or rather the quad. They have been on the doorstep. Now's the time to kick in the door if you're Alabama because the expectations couldn't be higher. I think they can do it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you today they will, but that's the stratosphere that they're in right now.
I guess.
I'm
not convinced. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced, and I got a lot of arguments, but I don't want to get into that right now. Hopefully, these young guys have a good summer and they compete for first of all, Nate Oates gonna have a hard time picking a lineup, picking minutes, and who's gonna get the ball at the end of the game.
I know who's getting games. I know who's getting the ball at the end of the game. It's our man Kai Killens, and I'll tell you what. Over here on Kai Killens Island, it was a desolate island, but right now. The investment properties on this island are bustling, okay? There's developments all over the place. We've got beachside condominiums. We've got a new movie theater. I mean, this island, the people who are here on Kai Killens Island, I've still got that pristine view because I was the first man that laid claim on it. Kai Killens is capable of carrying just about anybody, and he's capable of carrying this team to a national championship. Sniper, as always, great to have you on. We'll talk to you again next Wednesday. Appreciate everyone tuning in here on SimWorld TV. Only place you can see the game, be the game.